Alright, the last thing we'll talk about in this section is functions, and we've talked about these before, but the way that we talked about them before was kind of like a machine where you'd put an input in and then it would spit out an output, kind of like if you put in X, you can get a Y value that correlates with that X, kind of like when we graph points on a coordinate grid. But functions can also be defined in the relation realm. And here is the definition, and it sounds kind of confusing, so we'll clear up this definition with some examples. But it says a function is a special type of relation that pairs each domain value with exactly one range value. Basically what this is saying is that there should be no repeat x values, and that I want to take a look at that. So here I have 5 relations, and actually what we're going to do is we're just going to put these into whether it's a function or not a function. We're going to put them into their categories. So there are a couple different ways to do this, and I want to take a look at the tables first. So I'm going to put the tables next to each other, and then we'll talk map, and then we'll talk graphs after that. Alright, so rearrange those. Alright, if we look at the first table, we have 75 students to 2 buses, 68 students to 2 buses, and 125 students to 3 buses. Notice how all the x values are different for this one. That's a good sign. That means that we do have some repeats in the y section. That's alright. But we do have, so if we were actually to make a table here, it would be 75, 68, 125, and 2, 3 would be this. So we'd have 75 to 2, 68 to 2, and 125 to 3. So we have 2 x values that go to 1 y value. That's okay, but we don't want 2 x values, 2 of the same x values to go to different y values. So this is not a function, or is a function, sorry. However, the next table is not, because if we were to look at that table, we've got 2 repeat x values in there. So if we look at the table, 0, 1, 2, or the map, sorry, 2, 5, 6, 8. We have 0 to 2, 1 to 5, 1 to 6, 2 to 8. Now we have an x value that's going to 2 different y values. That is what we consider not a function. Okay? So this is not a function because we had 2 repeat x values. So let's look at now the map. We've got a map, and we want to look at if there is one x value that goes to 2 different y's, and we certainly do. So this is not a function either. Alright? And lastly, the graphs. Now remember, if you have 2 x values that are the same, let's say we graphed these points right here. Not all of them, but 0, 2 is right here, 1, 5, 3, 4, 5 is up here, and then 1, 6 would be right above that. If there are points in your graph that are right directly above and below each other, that's going to be considered not a function. So when you're looking at graphs, we can do this thing called the vertical line test, where if you draw a vertical line anywhere on your graph and there are 2 points above and below each other directly, that's going to be not a function. So that's how you can look at it as a graph. So this is not a function. But notice if I move this line over, no matter where I put this vertical line, there's only going to be 1 point where it crosses that vertical line, not 2 directly and above and below. So this is also a function. This is something that we'll talk more about in class, but wanted to give you a heads up on it, and we'll continue looking at what's a function and what's not a function. But basically, things that are not a function will have, they will not pass a vertical line test, or they'll have 1 x value that goes to 2 different y values. Those would be not functions. And we'll get more familiar with that as we go.